All right, assalamu alaikum everyone. And today, inshallah, we're going to be talking about the Arabic pronouns again. And when we're talking about the Arabic pronouns, sometimes it can be confusing for some. So we're hopefully, inshallah, going to make it easy, and hopefully we're going to make it easy and not hard. In that way, you could kind of grasp and understanding what it means. So the Arabic pronouns, really easy, and hopefully, unlike last time, we're going to make it easier, inshallah. But before we do that, I thought it would be a good idea to actually watch a little video, a really short video, just a couple of seconds right here, but it's pretty straightforward and pretty good. So let's watch that video really quick and see how they did the pronouns. So let's just watch it.
ضمير الرفع المنفصل أنا
نحن
أنت
أنت
أنتما أنتم
أنتن
هو
هي
هما هم
هن. I think this is enough for today. Next time.
So pretty easy and straightforward. They did a good job, demonstrated it in person, and then you could see it right there. And inshallah, hopefully, get one segment of it. But there's the other part, which I think they did a good job in, which is when it comes to the verb and those connected pronouns. Remember, you've got connected pronouns and you've got some pronouns that come disconnected. So we're just going to look at this one
in
now.
Arabic. Because this type of pronoun is attached, let's learn its forms, attaching them to the past verb kataba, which means he wrote. This is our table of pronouns. Let's remove the header and the first column to maximize the size of the table. The pronoun will be colored in red so that it can be distinguished.
كتبت
كتبت
كتبنا
كتبنا
كتبت
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 كتبتما
كتبتما
كتبتم
كتبتم
كتبتن.
كتبتن. There is no attached pronoun for the third person singular masculine. The basic form for any verb is the conjugation with that person.
كتب
كتب
كتبت
كتبت. The ta with sukun for the third person singular feminine is not a pronoun. It is just a sign of femininity.
كتب
كتبا
كتبتا
كتبتا
كتبوا
كتبوا
كتبنا.
كتبنا. In the next time, inshallah, there is another table for Arabic pronouns.
إلى اللقاء.
See you.
All right, so that was it. Really straightforward, but of course it was kind of fast, at least, for a video. We definitely need some other helping tool. So I prepared an easy and something a little bit more visual, although they did an awesome job, but we still need some visual items to help us go through it because it's a foreign language and I know what it means to learn foreign languages. I actually learned 6 foreign languages, so I know what it means to navigate between those differences, and therefore I would like to just introduce some of those things. So I put it in different colors right there, and it's you could see, so we've got the singular, the dual, and the plural. Same thing. So this is when it's connecting to a noun, and this is when we're connecting the pronoun. So this whole connectors here is really just an issue of connecting the pronouns that identify whether this pronoun is for a singular person, or whether this pronoun is for dual people, or whether this pronoun is for plural. But remember, when the pronoun is connected to a noun, well, let's see how the conjugation is going to happen. If it's a mufrad, meaning singular, muhandis would mean engineer. So now we're talking about one engineer. We're talking about one engineer, and in this situation, we're actually looking at a hidden type of pronoun where it is referring to a male engineer. If we are talking about a feminine, then it would be really simple, and all that you're adding to it is really that ta marbuta at the end if you are making it feminine. So she would be muhandisa. She would be an engineer, a female engineer. All you would need to add at the end is just that marbuta. Same thing with here. All you would be adding is just that marbuta right here. Same thing right here. If it's a feminine, all you're adding is just that marbuta. And let's see. Well, here I guess they assumed that a teacher, mudarris, and for a feminine would be mudarrisa. Would be that ta marbuta talib, and for a feminine, talib would be masculine, male, one. And if you add that ta marbuta, which is right here indicated, then this would be a feminine, meaning one girl of that type. All right, so let's just see it right here. Muhandis, engineer. La'ib, player. Tabbakh, cook or chef. Mudarris, teacher. Talib would be student. Now look at it if it were a feminine. Muhandisa, لاعبة, طباخة, مدرسة, طالبة. Those would be if it were one and we're specifically adding the pronoun, or at least the indicator that this is one of them. Well, let's see if it's a dual. You could see if we're talking about a dual. Let's see what it would look like. We would be adding the an at the end of this form. So of the form, and whether this is a feminine or a masculine is really going to be the same thing. Whether it's a feminine, masculine. So muhandisatan if we're just adding the ta. And right here, if we are just talking about feminine. So we're just adding, it's kind of like you're adding a tan right here. Imagine it right there. If you're muhandisatan, if you are making them feminine. So let's do it as a masculine. Muhandisan, two engineers, male engineers. La'iban, two players, male players. طباخان, two male cooks. مدرسة, مدرسان if we're talking about two male teachers. طالبان if we're talking about two male students. But here, if we are to make it as two female, it is exactly going to look like this form right here, in where you're adding a ta right here. You're adding a ta right there. So it's going to be muhandisatan, la'ibatan. You're adding it right before it, just like this one. طباختان, you're adding the ta. مدرستان, طالبتان. Now you could see how it would look like if it's in the form of feminine. Well, let's see if we're looking at male plural form. All right, male plural form, muhandisun. If it's male plural form, what are we adding? Look at this. We're just adding the un at the end. The end of what? Well, you want to imagine this is the form, and you're just adding the un onto this form. All right, let's look at it. Muhandis, muhandisun. We're just adding the un. All right, so Muslim, muslimun, if we are to give Muslim as the example here. So all you're adding is that un. That would make it the plural. La'ib, la'ibun. La'ib, la'ibun, meaning that they are the players. We're just adding the un And you could see it right there. So we're pretty much adding the same thing onto this original form. So طباخ, طباخون, Okay, now if we are to make this مدرسون, if we wanted to make it still مدرس, we wanted to make it into that un, if we're making it into that plural form. The second and multiple, so right. So when we're talking about right here, if you mean the second and multiple, so right here for the feminine, you're just adding the ta in the beginning, but for the multiple, for the masculine, مهندسون, لاعبون, طباخون, مدرسون, طالبون or طلاب would be جمع تكسير. All right, now but when we're talking about feminine, you would, instead of the un, you would add the at. So muhandisat, la'ibat. You would, instead of the un, you would add the at. If it's just like you see it here. Okay, just like you see it there in where this is, if it were a plural feminine. Plural feminine. All right, طباخات, and we're going to be adding at instead of un because of it being plural feminine, meaning that female chefs here. This means chef, female chefs, women chefs, women players, women engineers, women teachers, women students, طالبات, طباخات, لاعبات, مهندسات. Now this is talking about plural. And let's see the plural in masculine again. Let's just review it really quick. مهندسون, لاعبون. Here we go. It's right there. طباخون, مدرسون. Remember, if we're talking about masculine. طالبون. You can also say طالبون, but طلاب is most common in talking about they're just general requesters, but usually طلاب as the common form of students, the plural of students. All right, let's see when we're talking about the verb. So when we're looking at the verb, it's a little quite different because let's see. So يشربوا, you could see here, although they did the past and the future, but يشربوا right there, you could see that this is referring to a masculine. Yeah, the ya is telling me that it's referring to a masculine because a ta would refer to a feminine. Okay, so let's do it here. We're going to do it first masculine, all right? And yashrabu, yaktubu, sorry, they should have actually made it in the past, in the future, since that one's in the future. So yaktubu, yatbukhu, yadrusu, yatlubu. If we are talking about yatlubu, I'm going to add the ya. Yadrusu, this is the ta for a feminine. They're just showing you the different kinds. And let's just imagine this one's not there. Yatbukhu, yaktubu, yashrabu. This is for adding it to the verb. So we've got, this one is actually a hidden pronoun in where it is for a singular. So the verb would actually contain that particular pronoun. It is in it. Yashrabu طارق. Let's just assume we're talking about طارق. طارق يشرب الحليب. طارق is drinking the milk. All right. يكتب طارق the lesson. طارق is writing the lesson. يطبخ طارق الطعام. طارق is cooking the food. يدرس طارق الدرس. طارق is studying the lesson. يطلب طارق الرزق. طارق is seeking his rizq, or his rizq, the rizq that he needs. All right, so now we could see if we are to make it into a feminine. Let's see what it would look like if we're making it into a feminine. If we're making it into a feminine, we're going to take out that yeah and instead put a ta. All right, so let's indicate it. We're going to take it out. Ready? So if it's a feminine, we're going to say tashrabu. We're going to put these two tas, and I'm going to take out that yeah right there. Take it out. تشرب الحليب. تشرب, let's say مي الحليب. مي is drinking the milk. تكتب, let's add the ta. تكتب مي الدرس. مي is writing the lesson. تطبخ مي الطعام. مي is cooking the food. تدرس مي الدرس. مي is studying the lesson. تطلب, now we're adding the ta, right? So if the ta is not there, you're going to add it for a feminine. All right? So if the ta is not there, you're going to add the ta. And if it's a masculine, you're putting a ya. يطلب. If it's a masculine, you're putting a ya, not a ta. All right? Simple as that. If it's a masculine, you're putting a ya, not a ta. The ta is for feminine. See, even if it's a ya, you can take out the ya, you're going to put the 2 dots to make it a ta, and then it becomes feminine. Do it over. Let's do it over. So let's do it over really quick. All right. For masculine, you're going to add a ya onto them. Yaktubu. And you're going to put a ya on all of them. Okay. Because it's a masculine, they're going to be yas all the way down. Yatlubu, yadrusu, yatbukhu, yaktubu, yashrabu. And then you could say the name and what they're doing. All right. Now, if it's a feminine, if it's a girl that's performing that, then it's a ta. Tashrabu, take out the ya. Taktubu, tatbukhu, it's already there, I'm going to leave it. If it's already there, I'm going to leave it. Tatlubu, and now it's talking about a woman. Let's look at the dual form. And the dual form, again, if it's a ya, it's masculine. So those 2 men are drinking. Those 2 men, yaktuban, yaktuban. So take out that tab because that's a feminine. Yaktuban, yatbukhan, or yatbukhan to be more accurate. Taking out the ta because it's masculine. Yeah, yadrusan. Take out the ta because it's masculine. Yatluban, and they forgot the n. Oh, here we go. Yatluban. Let's see the masculine. So yashraban, yaktuban, take out that ta right there because for masculine, feminine. Yatbukhan, yadrusan, yatluban. That would mean this is talking about 2 males that are performing this particular verb. So we're talking about yashraban, yaktuban. Oh, I forgot to add the n. All you're adding is the n. Yatbukhan, yadrusan, yatluban. Now if we're talking about 2 feminine, let's see what happens when it's feminine. Yes, women are usually complicating. So here we go. Let's see if it's feminine. All right, you're taking out the ya, and you're adding a ta. Tashraban, you're just adding a ta. And taktuba, you're adding what? Taktub, or taktuba if it's not. And this is not supposed to be there unless it's in the past. تطبخان, تدرسان, تطلبا. Here's the ta. All right. And if it's in the past, then it would be طلبتا, كتبتا, شربتا. If we're talking about the past, so we'll get to that. And let's see right there. Now we're going for the plural. For the plural, and here we go. For a plural form of masculine, we're using a ya. Yashrabun, yaktubun. We're adding an un. Yaktubun. Okay, yaktubun. Here's the wall right there. Sorry, it's so hard to write with this mouse. Yatbukhun, if this is a masculine. Yadrusun. All right, yadrusun if it's a masculine. Yatlubun. Yatlubun if it's a masculine. Yatlubun. Let's do it again. For a plural, yashrabun, yaktubun, yatbukhun, yadrusun, yatlubun. This is for plural. They're drinking, they're writing, they're cooking, they're studying, they're seeking. All right, now let's imagine it as feminine. Remember, what you're doing for a masculine, you're adding the ya and you're adding the un at the end. Well, let's see when we're talking about women, what happens. Tashrab, تشربنا. What are you taking out? You're taking out the ooh totally. تشربنا. That's the confusion, huh? تكتبنا. تكتبنا. What are we doing? We're actually taking out the we're actually putting a sukoon over the end of that verb, and we're adding this noon at the end. All right, we're making it and we're giving it that shadda. I know. Let's look at this one. تكتبنا. تكتبنا. So what are we doing actually? تكتب. Remember تكتب. Take out this or كتبت. Let's say تكتب right here, and then we're putting a sukoon and we're adding the n. So for men, you're just adding an un, but for women, you're actually putting a sukoon over the last letter, and then you're adding an n. تكتبنا. تطبخنا. Take it out, that ooh, and putting a sukoon right there and adding the n. تطبخنا. تد. Take out that, yeah. تدرسنا. تدرسنا. تطلب. Again, what are we doing? تطلب. We're putting a sukoon at the end of that letter, and then we're putting an n. تطلبنا. 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 You see it right there? Look at that. And how those words are actually, changing as you add those pronouns. This is really important because when you see those pronouns, you'll be able to identify them. Well, if this is a little bit hard, don't worry, I got you another slide. I put a number of slides just to help us see it. All right, so now we look at a different kind, and you could see I put right there huwa, he, huma, dual, hum, and this is talking about the group. It's a masculine plural. Hiya, she, huma, feminine dual, hunna, and this is feminine plural. All right, so let's see the past tense, the present tense, and we're going to talk about the that when you're denying something. Okay, so here we go. So past, تلاقى. Now those words be the words that actually are not the regular forms. All right, تلاقى and يتلاقى. Here's the ya if it's talking about present tense. The ya, look at that ya and how it's adding as we go towards the different forms. All right, so يتلاقى. Look at those colors and how, in order to demonstrate for you what was really added. So let's see. تلاقى يتلاقى. They're getting, or تلاقى, well, actually meeting, meeting, or met, meeting. تلاقيا. This is talking about masculine dual. تلاقيا. They met. يتلاقيان. This is talking about the future present tense. All right. تلاقوا. The masculine plural. تلاقوا. They met. يتلاقون. They're meeting. All right. Now for the women. تلاقت. That they met. The women. Well, تلاقت. Well, she met. تتلاقى. That she's meeting. تلاقتا. That they met, the two women. تلاقيان. تتلاقيان. That the two girls are meeting. تلاقين. The feminine plural form. And تلاقين. That they met. That the women met. And here they're meeting. Well, let's see another one. So right here, I want you to see really quick here. So when do we actually see those demonstrative nouns, or the pronouns to be more specific? All right. So when we're looking at the singular, dual, plural again. So مذكر عاقل. Now you want to remember the word مذكر عاقل and مؤنث عاقل and non-human. So when we're looking at عاقل, that would actually mean human. It would also mean thinking. But even if somebody was not mentally sane, they would still use these forms. They would still apply to these forms just because they're human. So هذا مهندس. Now we're talking about, so what is the demonstrative? Means basically you are You as a person, you're number one, you're directing your words at a number second person, and the third person is listening to this. This is an engineer. This is a female engineer. Remember, we're adding the ta. We did that before. هذا كتاب. But for something that is not human, it's an item basically. In English we would just say it, but in Arabic we would say هذا or هذه. There in Arabic, there's never going to be an it in Arabic. It's either going to be he or she, even if we're talking about something that is an object and not a thinking item. It's still going to be he or she. So how do I identify if it's a he or she? It usually is, not always. If it has a ta marbuta at the end, looking like this at the end, طاولة, then expect it that it's a feminine. All right, so هذه طاولة. هذا قلم. هذا قلم. هذه مقلمة. So just to help you, this is not necessarily always the case, because are we going to say شمس or قمر, and هذا قمر, even, and هذه شمس, and you're like, where's the ta marbuta? Again, this is just simplifying. There's no ta marbuta in shamsatun. All right, it's هذه شمس. All right, but this is just the way the Arabic structure is. So not always, as easy as saying, well, here's the structure and here's how it goes. All right, هذه سيارة. This is a car. Sayyara. But in the Quran, the word sayyara is not a car, but a caravan. So I don't want somebody going and say, I found that the Quran was actually the car is mentioned in the Quran and something, that was going to happen in the future. This is not relating to it. Don't make Islam a joke. The sayyara in the Quran is referring to the caravan and not the car. All right, so let's keep going, and here we go for the dual. The dual is basically for the two people. All you could see is that هذان, and this is where you're demonstrating. You're basically using that explanation where you're referring to these two people. So let's see. هذان مهندسان. And what am I doing? The an at the end. Look at that. We're adding on to the original one. And let's see, maybe I could indicate it with an annotate so you could see it. Here we go. So here's the actual form, and what you're adding onto it is really the an at the end. Muhandisan. Versus if it were feminine, well, let's see what it's going to look like. If it's a feminine, hatani, hatani, muhandisatan, tan. And what you're adding is really the tan. And to make it easier, remember, the original form of it is actually هذه مهندسة. And all I'm adding is an to the, and adding it to the original one. So here, we're adding it to the original one. And same thing with here, we're adding the an onto the original one, which is this one, مهندسة. Let's move on right there. هذا كتاب. This is a book. هذان كتابان. And of course you might هذان, كتابان. And this is غير عاقل. Anyways, this is not human, non-thinkable item. You could say it that way. It's هذه سيارة, هاتان سيارتان. This is in the dual. But here's one thing, is that don't confuse yourself, because anyways, مذكر غير عاقل, so you're not going to use this form. These forms are different than these forms. So just keep that in mind. So don't get confused and start wondering, well, how come we're not saying kitabatan? All right, because remember, that would be for the aqil. All right, that would be for this one. These ones have a different form than these ones, at least in the dual part. All right, well, let's see on the other end what we're looking at when it comes to the plural. Let's see the plural and how it goes. Well, first of all, for the plural, for the demonstrative pronouns, what you're doing is هؤلاء, هؤلاء, هذه, and هذه. Compared to, let's see right here, this is plural feminine, and plural non-thinkable item, or sorry, singular, my bad, singular. Now let's look at here. Now we're talking about all of these are going to be plural. هؤلاء. And let's see. What we're adding onto the original form is really the un. What are we adding it onto? We're adding it onto this little guy. Let's see it. I'm just going to clear everything all out again just so we could see it. Okay, so what are we doing? We're adding the un. Let's look at it. We're adding the un onto what? We're adding the un onto this guy. All right? Because this is the original format. And here, that plural women, plural because we're still in the plural format, we're adding it onto this one. Right? We're adding it onto that one. Now we've got it. هذه كتب. هذه كتب. Now we're not going to say كتبون, all right? Because this is غير عاقل. Because this is not thinkable, non-human, masculine. So you're not going to say كتبون, or you're just going to say هذه كتب. And this is actually in لغة عربية called جمع تكسير, in where it goes back to the original word كتب, goes back to the original root, original verb, and you're just adding kutub, kutub. So you're just adding to the root of kataba, right? This is the root kataba, the kataba. Now, if you're making it into a plural, not the root is kataba. Let's see what you're doing. What you're doing is really making a little change right there, and you're making ku and tu, kutub, kutub. And here we go. Let's move on. All right, now هذه سيارات, and this is the feminine dual. هذه كتب, هذه سيارات, sorry, هذه سيارات. Let's see, for example, what would we find this one in the Quran? صحيفة, صحف. We would see in the Quran صحف. The root of it, صحف. Just like when we did kataba. Let's see, kataba. Just like when we did kataba. And we did suhuf. Remember when we put that? Same thing when we did sahafa. Sahafa means to scribe. And here we're doing the same exact thing. We're adding the u and the dhamma onto the first one, making it ku and tub. Okay, and now here su and huf. Suhuf. All right, and let's see here سيارات and مؤنث غير عاقل. And it's really important, you know, there's so many different forms. How do I know if it's a masculine or a feminine, especially if it's a non-human object? How am I going to, you know the difference? That usually comes with experience, even though there are some roots to it, but it really comes with experience. And it's very similar to French somehow. That was probably the most confusing thing for me when I studied French, which is the issue of the masculine and the feminine. And is it le livre or la livre, and how do we know the difference, and why did they decide this? And sometimes, you know, you just have to memorize those words. هذه سيارات. And let's move on. Hopefully, don't worry, this is not the end of it. I've got more things to make it even easier. Hold on, let's look at this. And here we go. Now you've got some of those pronouns. You see those little tiny pronouns at the end right there? So those pronouns are basically the same idea in where they will always be. So this one, you're actually defining, all right? Those are defining. So they are defining. They are fixed, meaning that they can't change. You can't say who or who we. There's no way. They're going to be always anta, antuma, antum. You're going to, well, antumu is anti, you're not going to be changing it, and it will always be in this form that you see it right there. Versus for these guys, those are going to be different, because those are going to be either connected to a verb, or they're going to be connected to a verb or connected to a noun. Right, so those ones are connected ones, and those ones would be usually separate. All right, these ones would be separate. So this is the difference between a detached pronoun and an attached pronoun. All right, so you gotta look at these attached pronouns. I'm gonna use the word kataba, all right, and actually do it. Huwa, I don't need to say huwa kataba or kataba huwa, because just the word kataba is going to anyways indicate that it's huwa. Kataba, which would mean huma. All right, let's see here. Can I add to it? Well, you know what? Let's go with it. Let's look at here. Now you are adding the same exact pronouns. Let's see the ones. I hope now are you guys actually seeing the ones that I'm doing? Yes, you are. Okay, good. And here we go. So I want you to see it. Now you see those things that we added? Let's see what they mean, okay? So now you've got those detached, and all these you could see right there. This is really important. You're looking at a third person, and here it is. In Arabi, we'll say ghaib, meaning the person is not actually present. That's a third person. They're somewhere else. They're third person. Let's actually go to the first person first. The first person is, it's me. I'm the first person. I'm talking. And the second person is the person that I'm talking to. And these are the pronouns that will refer to that. And the third person is somebody that's not present. All right. So this is me, I, we. And this is me talking to somebody, a second person. Here it is, second person. And this is a third person, meaning somebody that's not present. We're referring to somebody that is gone. All right, so let's see. And here we've got the singular, dual, and plural, masculine and feminine, first person, masculine and feminine. So let's just look at it right there. I'm going to start from the bottom, really, not from the left, not from the top. All right, so the person, and here made it easy, and which is the masculine and the feminine, whether they're singular or dual. You could look at this side, singular or plural, sorry, it's going to be ana and nahnu. It's I and we, right there. I'll send you those slides, inshallah. And let's see, for the second person, what you're doing is really anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna. You could see where these additions right there, those additions right there, they're basically to help you catch up on it. And you could see that those additions and how you could see they're the second person. So anta, anta, anta alimun, or anta talibun, anta صالح أنتما صالحان أنتم صالحون أنت صالحة أنتما صالحتان أنتن صالحات. We're going to see how those are conjugated, so don't stress out. All right, don't worry, don't stress out. We're just at least when you could see it. All right, let's see when we've got the third person. هو هما هم هي هما هن. You could see right there how they're split, okay? So let's just see, and those would one, huwa, huma, hum. And let's just see right there when we're talking about the hu, huma, hum. So those would be additional. Those would be attached. Those are attached pronouns. Those are detached pronouns. So you're never going to see this within a verb. You're never going to see it. It's either going to be, by default, it's there, just like when we say yashrabu, it's talking about a male drinking. Tashrabu, it's talking about a female drinking. By default, that ya is referring to masculine in the word yashrabu, and the ta is referring to a feminine in the word tashrabu. So by default, that word contains the pronoun in it. It's called mustatir. It is a hidden. Hidden does not mean, well, let's interpret it in different ways, but hidden means that by default that verb is containing that pronoun. Versus the attached pronouns, there's, and this is really important, the attached pronouns, when do we consider those attached pronouns? That's why this is where the deconstruction of a verb comes in, and where we're trying to figure out where does the verb end and where does it start, and those are deconstructing pronouns. I'm just going to read out those attached pronouns in order for us to learn how to deconstruct them. The who, and that would be at the end. Nafsuhu, nafsuhuma, nafsuhum, nafsuha. I'm just adding a nafs, okay? So I'm just adding the nafs and attaching this pronoun to it. All right? No, I just want you to recognize nafs, and maybe I could write it so that it will be clear, especially for those visual learners like me. So we're gonna put nafs means that same person or the nafs. All right, or here we go. So here we go. Nafsuhu, himself. Nafsuhuma, themselves. And this is referring to people. Nafsuhum, themselves. Nafsuha, herself. Nafsuhuma, all themselves. This is referring to women. Nafsuhunna, notice that we're nafsuhunna. We're adding, everything is added right there at the end. You're needed. Nafsuka, you're talking to a male. Nafsuki, for a female. Nafsukuma for two women, two men. Nafsukum, for that is you, yourselves. And nafsukun, yourselves for women. Nafsi, myself. Nafsuna, ourselves. You see it right there? So we're just adding that nafs, self, that is self. Nafsuhu, himself. Nafsuhuma, or himself. Themselves, herself. And nafsuhunna, themselves for women. Nafsuka, yourself. Nafsukuma, nafsukum, yourselves. Yourselves as well in English, but this is referring to a plural. Nafsuki, yourself for women or one woman. Nafsukuma, nafsukunna for a group of women. Nafsi, myself. Nafsuna, and this is ourselves. Let's move on and even see when we're actually seeing it in actual wording. Let's go for more demonstration for visual learners. Voila. Let's look at it now. What you see, and let's see. Huwa, his, there. Look at that. You can see it demonstrated right here. My, our, and this is referring to when we're attaching a pronoun. Let's see. They made it easy, and they put two similar sentences in where masculine and feminine. Masculine and feminine. Masculine and feminine meaning not referring to who owns it. This is not talking about who owns it. This is talking about the book itself being هذا كتاب هذه سيارة. Maybe I should take you back to what we were talking about. So we're talking about this one. In where مذكر غير عاقل and مؤنث غير عاقل. In where we're talking about something that is not human masculine and not human feminine. So this is using the same two forms that we had done before. All right, so let's do it again. There we go. And they used kitab and sayara, so we're using kitab and sayara right there. Kitab and sayara. So kitab, we're going to say his book. Kitabuhu. What did we add? We added the who. Maybe I could use more, annotate, and indicate it in red. Let's see. So the kitab, and in order for me to say his, I'm adding this pronoun who at the end, which is right there. Kitabuhu. And now we're adding the huma onto the word kitab. Here we go. Huma, here's the huma right there. Kitabu huma. Let's see, we're adding the hum. You see it right there? Here's the word kitab right there. Here's the word kitab, and you're just adding a ha. You see it? You're just adding these parts to it. You see it right there? Kitabu ha. And huma, there it is. Right? Hunna, there it is. You see it? Kitabuka, you're adding this. Kitabukuma, there it is. Kitabukum, there it is. Kitabuki, there it is. Kitabukuma, there it is. So remember, all these, they're just this. All right? All these, they're just this. All right? Kitabukuma, here it is. All you're adding is that pronoun at the very end. Very easy. You're just adding that pronoun at the end. Kitabi. Here's the word kitab, and all I'm adding is that e right there. Kitabuna. All I'm adding is the na at the end. And now that it is indicated, I'm gonna wipe out all those now that those deconstructive things, and now you could see it. All right, now you could see it. Let's just kind of go. Now you can, sorry about that. Now you're adding those pronouns, and now you're able to indicate how they're, sorry, when you're talking too much, it's, it just goes sometimes in the wrong airway. All right, now let's see. Now let's see when we're doing it feminine, non-thinking, non-human, that is. And same thing, we're sayara, and here it is, we're adding the same thing. All right, we're not really adding anything else. Here it is again. And here it is. Remember, this is going back to these. We're just adding as you can see it. All right, here it is. Sayyaratuhuma. Now those are simply the pronouns that you see right here. You're just literally just adding them at the end. That's basically it. All right, and here it is. That's basically it. You're just adding it at the very end. And now it's getting in place. See, you're just deconstructing it. And same thing, sayaratuna, the kunna, which is right exactly right there, and right exactly sayaratuki, which is this. You're doing the same exact thing, so nothing to worry about. Really straightforward, and those deconstructing things really help us identify where the noun and where the verb is in order for us not to get too lost with these things. Well, let's see another part in where this is going to be the end of it, and you could see that there are certain other pronouns. Those other pronouns you could see right there in where ضمائر الرفع, where أنا نحن أنت أنتما أنتم هو هي هم and هو هما هم, and you could see those. And versus, it could be that we're talking about ourselves. إيايا, إيانا, إياك. You could see what we're doing is really adding those pronouns at the end. Those pronouns at the end right there. And إيايا. إياي means myself. إيانا, ourselves. And notice that we're really adding is really onto the root or the word iyaya, mine, and you're adding iyahu, iyahuma. We're applying the same exact rule that we're doing here. Iyahuma, iyahunna, iyaka, iyakuma, iyakum. We're doing the same exact thing really onto the word iyaya, where we're adding those additional pronouns to it. That's basically it. So I hope that was easy. And another part in where you could see right there, those are actually the same thing that we were just talking about. And that's basically it. So I hope that was easier than last time. I tried to break it up as much as I can, and hopefully it was easier than last time. And jazakumullah khairan. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer those questions. So let's see. Any questions before we sign off? I hope it was easier than last time. So if it is, put me thumbs up, put me anything, just so that I would know that it was clear and I don't have to redo the dars. So you could, I'd be really happy to explain it even more if this still isn't clear. Jazakallah khairan, Sister Safa. Thank you for coming. And wa iyyakum. All right, so if there's anything else, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I hope I made it clear. And inshallah, we'd be continuing next week. We will be starting the real stuff next week. Or next week, no, that's supposed to be Monday. It's supposed to be Monday, but I think I'm going to give you some time to study. So we're not going to do the class this Monday. We'll do the class Saturday. We'll do the class Saturday just so that it will give us and give you guys some time to practice the test and and also practice the lesson. So we're not going to do the class this Monday, but we'll do the class on Saturday next week to give you a whole week to practice. I know very well that especially the mothers, we've got a lot of work at home right now, especially with the children homeschooling. I'm assuming it's an international thing. And with the homeschooling, you know, it's taking a lot of your time. So I'll give you some time to just practice it, study it, and hopefully that will be something that will be helpful, and we'll move on next Saturday, inshallah. And Jazakumullah khairan, and Sister Safa, Allah yarda annak ya Rabbi. All right, and Assalamu alaikum everyone. Jazakumullah khairan for showing up.